Today on Locked On Rockies, lots of moves being made, names still available. The Colorado Rockies, however, staying pat.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, Christmas Eve, the 24th day of December in the year 2024. Yes, that is right. The final 2 weeks of 2024 already here, folks. Isn't that pretty wild? I mean, this year has absolutely flown by, and lots of stuff has happened this year, not necessarily in the world of the Colorado Rockies, but it's been a busy year for me as well as the show. Hey, we hit 1,000 YouTube subscribers this year, folks. Like I said, the next 2 days will be a lot of sending thanks to you all as well, as we're celebrating the holidays, talking Rockies baseball here. Yes, there will be a pod tomorrow. You might see me in the same sweater because I might record it today. But anyway, I do want to take this episode and the next episode, parts of it, and in the spirit of the holiday season, to really say thank you to all of you folks out there for listening to the show. I'll dive deeper into my thanks and stuff tomorrow, just because a day of reflection type of thing, and you folks have really turned up and really supported the show throughout really tough years for the Colorado Rockies, and so that makes me happy, because that must mean some of my ramblings is hitting with you folks. Our everydayers have been great. So I just wanted, before we dive into everything and get fired up on the old Rockies stress machine here, I wanted to just send a moment to say thank you. And I'll dive a little bit more into that tomorrow as well. My thanks for you, the everydayers, on all the folks that check out Locked On Rockies. But this is your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. We're talking Rockies baseball. We're in our off-season mode, but Monday through Friday, usually on our your favorite streaming services and the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. That's the best place to be part of the show. If you want to fire off your Rockies hot takes, if you want to let me know what's on your mind, you want to be part of the show, head on over to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, and fire off your Rockies hot takes in the comment section, because we're going to be talking about a couple of them today here on the show. Before we dive into more good stuff, if you don't know who I am, I'm Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire. I've been following this team my entire life and been bringing you daily Rockies talk here for, it's going to be, I think we're going into season 4, 4.5. I can't quite remember, but love me the Rocks, no matter how frustrating they might be. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So, here is the deal, folks. We are in a series and in a situation in which lots of moves are being made across baseball. The teams are signing, players are going to places, and Rangers are making some interesting moves. They're trying to be a splash there. Not so much for the Colorado Rockies. And again, this isn't surprising. If you knew what the Rockies' plans were going into this season, this doesn't surprise you. But again, it doesn't necessarily make you any more confident, right? I mean, there's nothing fun about watching other teams throughout Major League Baseball sign players, reevaluate, do this, do that, make the big moves, make the big changes, make all those moves while your team sits there and stands pat. I think that, again, this goes back into the biggest frustrations. And actually, we'll just dive into this. I was going to wait a little bit, but on ESPN here, the most aggrieved fan bases, the most frustrated fan bases here. This is from David Schoenfield on ESPN, ranking the top 10 most frustrated fan bases. The Rockies come in at number 8. And I wanted to read part of this here, and I wanted to revisit part of this piece too, because again, I'm not a fan of this mentality of it, and I know why people want to believe this way, but again, that's you're asking for a double-edged sword, and you're asking for a problem there as well. We'll get to that in a sec. But here's this from Rockies, 8 out of 10, so they're 8th on this list. Not the most frustrated, but still very frustrated. Fun fact, since 2011, only the Marlins have lost more games than the Rockies, 1,224 losses to 1,209. Despite that, the Rockies stick to a plan. They will rely almost solely on developing homegrown talent, even if they haven't been very good at it, with the occasional bad free agent signed in, mixed in. Think Chris Bryant and Ian Desmond. Look, it's almost impossible to lure pitchers to Colorado, but amazingly, the Rockies have signed just one big free agent hitter in franchise history, Larry Walker, back in 1995. No, Bryant didn't count at the time, despite the $182 million contract, and he certainly doesn't count now. Sign Pete Alonso, sign Anthony Santander or Teoscar Hernandez and see how many home runs they can hit in the thin air. Find some sort of offense and at least make this team interesting. You can't really argue against that. And you can't really argue against the fact, I mean, being the team that has the second most losses in baseball since 2011 and sitting there and saying that what we're doing is working is everything that's flawed about the Colorado Rockies is on full display in just that short paragraph. What gets me disappointed, what makes me disappointed, what makes me think, what makes me bored with the Rockies is the expectation that this is the standard, that this is where we're at. And for the Rockies to sit here and say that this is the only way they can do it, again, highlights the fact of it's a building full of people that are either fully bought into the idea and the concept of what they're doing, or people that know how to keep their job and know how to keep themselves secure at where they're at by going with, rolling with, and doing things with that organization and with that front office. Because that is damning. The Rockies' free agent track record for offense is damning. The Rockies sitting here and having to cut and shed payroll and have to get creative because they overcommitted to Chris Bryant and haven't been able to be a big success and losing out on their TV money. That all would lead to what I think is innovation. But again, I think what's the hardest part for Rockies fans right now, I think the most frustrating part for Rockies fans right now, even if you want to hype yourself up on the Tovars and the Doyles and such, is you don't expect this team to change at its core. Fundamentally, you don't, as a Rockies fan, you don't anticipate this team doing anything drastically different. The Chris Bryant deal was kind of out there, but then you realize it's like, well, they wanted a star on their team and they've always done that. So there were kind of threads. Now that we're just kind of, this is a moment where the Rockies are just going to be treading water. And in this piece here, they talk about this here. Still back-to-back 100 loss seasons and no evidence that things are going to turn around anytime soon must make even the most dedicated Rockies fans question their faith, or maybe not. Attendance remains solid as the Rockies drew 2.5 million fans in 2024, 15th in the majors. They outdrew the Mets, Milwaukee Brewers, Baltimore Orioles, Cleveland Guardians, Detroit Tigers, Kansas City Royals, all playoff teams. Maybe we should just blame the fans. Keep showing up and there's no incentive for ownership to fix things. I hate that, man. I truly do. It shouldn't be. Look what's happened. What happened to Oakland fans being disinterested in their team and not going to games? The owner packed up and left. And that has happened time and time again. And to sit there and say, oh, well, we got to blame the fans. They keep showing up. Where's your analysis of the trends that the Rockies are declining in attendance over the past few years? It's not the fans' fault. And that's a terrible measuring stick to measure something like that, because the Rockies are like the Chargers. They're like these other teams in football where the opposing team, they bring in so many fans, and that's how it is. That to sit there and blame, there's more Rockies fans that are sitting it out that are replaced by Dodgers fans, Padres fans, Giants fans, Cubs fans, Yankees fans, Red Sox fans. Everyone's come to Colorado. Everyone wants to come to Colorado for a visit. That one boils my blood, man. Because guess what? If you want low attendance and you think the Rockies are already bad, are already not doing enough in free agency, guess what they're going to do even less of if attendance dips to those teams' levels. There is an element of reality to the Rockies' money problems. There is an element to the Rockies having issues in the post-local TV revenue market world. That is a good excuse for the Rockies. On the flip side, though, they have a huge control of Denver. They have a lot of power and influence down there, and they have more money. The Rockies can be a better and different team, but it's going to take change at the top. It is not going to be the fans and wearing paper bags over your head and that stuff. It ain't going to work in Colorado because guess what? Dodgers fans are still going to show up. Padres fans are still going to show up. Cubs fans are still going to show up. Yankees fans are still going to show up. And Coors is going to have plenty of people. And that is a good thing. If you want the Rockies to have money to spend, they need people in the stands because people ain't watching them on TV. And I just hate that. Wow, it's your fault for loving your team and showing up and watching it. Screw you, man. I mean, I'm sorry. You will not get me. You will not keep me from watching the Rockies. I know how bad this team is. You don't need to tell me how much of my time and money I've spent on the Colorado Rockies. I am fully aware. But to blame the fan, it just has never made any sense to me. Look, if you open up a pack of season tickets to the Rockies tomorrow and you're excited and you're pumped on it, you should be. Because it's okay to still enjoy Rockies baseball. It's still okay to attend. That's not going to be the difference maker. It's the Rockies at their core, the organization. I'm talking about the people that make the decisions, the people that are in charge, are so entrenched, are so confident that they know what they're doing is right. Why they believe that and where they can point to their history of success, I don't know. But the fundamental core issue with the frustration of the Rockies fan should not be with the other Rockies fan. It should be placed solely at the front office and the people that make the decisions for the Colorado Rockies. And again, I know it's I don't want to be overly mean, but when you're at what am I most frustrated with as a Rockies fan? I am frustrated by the front office and the organization as a whole. I am not I am frustrated by the decision makers. I am frustrated by the roster construction, the development, all of these things. I am frustrated by the lack of research and analytics. And all of those things go back to ownership, the people in charge, not the fans. It's not your fault that you like watching baseball in your hometown and like supporting your home team and you can go to an affordable sporting event with your family. It is not your fault. It is Dick Monfort and company. They are the ones directly responsible for where the Rockies are at. They have built the lineups. They have spent the money. They have sent the traded the or not re-signed players, signed players, made these moves. The Rockies are laying in the own bed that they made. And the worst part about it, they're boring. They're just flat out boring. And I'm going to talk about that coming up here in segment number 2 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Gametime. Gametime, man. You can't beat Gametime when you are looking for last-minute tickets. And, hey, that includes last-minute holiday gifts. Yes, you can still get a holiday gift from Gametime right now as we're entering the home stretch. Gametime is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You can toggle in that all-in pricing feature right when you get to that main part of the app. So you're going to know exactly what you're paying at checkout. Boom, right there. And you got that gift right on your phone. Don't even have to go out and brave the final day of shopping there. It's going to be all right there on your phone. Easy to use app. And they got the Gametime ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that is what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you all sorts of rocking and rolling Rockies action. Thanking you for making us your first listen of the day. Hey, for your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. I actually did a crossover with Locked On MLB last week. A really good episode there with our guy Sully, as we were rocking and rolling, talking about some stuff, trying to build some faith and build some hype about a potential Rockies Cinderella story. And I don't think that's going to happen. Not this year, at least. I don't think I don't think it's in the cards, let's say. But let's see here. The Rockies are boring. They are a boring team right now. You have to find the things to be excited for. You have to look at the offseason and just kind of realize that in order to kind of, I really think in order to start really seeing that this team is actually trending towards the right direction, because again, with bringing back Bud Black, with the 6 straight losing seasons, back-to-back 100-loss seasons, again, this team is suspended in like a goo, right? Of just kind of floating there. And yes, this season we'll see some differences, and the first time we've seen this rotation healthy in a while. But if I really think about it, when I look at the Rockies lineup and when I look at the rotation and I look at everything, I'm not overly excited. I'm excited by Tovar and Doyle and a potential Jones bounce back. But other than that, one of the big things that we need to see from these guys, if we're going to kind of have a whoa moment this year of like a holy smokes, like hold the phone, what's going on with the Rockies, we need to see these guys kind of jump into an elite category. While Doyle and Tovar can certainly are right on that cusp and have an argument to be there, it's the rest of the lineup. It's the rest of the lineup. It's the pitching staff. And that even includes, I'm sorry, I'm not overly excited about the rotation again this year. I need to see, for me to build up some hype and some energy and some momentum with this team, is I need to see these guys really break the mold next year. And it isn't just individual accolades. It isn't just hitting 30-30 seasons. It's not just that. No, this team needs to go on winning streaks. This team needs to avoid 8-game losing streaks. This team needs to avoid situations in which they just constantly go for weeks on end with just nothing but losing. And it was a little bit better there, but there's still so many constant losing streaks of 3+ of blowing games and getting out the gate so slow. I mean, I'm just looking at how bad the beginning of the season was, or the first half especially. There's just too many instances in which the Rockies completely negate all of the momentum that they build for themselves. And this mixes in with the offseason too. Again, with this new expectations, with the money issues, and with their history, it sucks that we go through off seasons all the time where we're sitting here and saying, wow, look at this team making moves and doing something different. Wow, look at what the Rangers are doing. Wow, look at what's going on over here. Instead, every offseason, and when it comes to this, we just expect the Rockies to sit on their hands and just throw their hands up and be like, oh, no, it's our self-imposed everything. Dick Monfort's not going to be where he wants to be as a baseball owner if he's not going to have to, if he doesn't realize that drastic changes need to be coming for this team. And I hate to be such a downer out of nowhere here, but it's just when you're trying to, I guess, talking about boring, when you're talking about other teams making moves, when you're talking about the vibes with the players and with the team and stuff. How can you sit here and say the vibes are overall high? How can you sit here? I mean, obviously the team has a good relationship amongst each other, but my outside the park baseball team with the Rays is the worst team in baseball by a long shot. And they got, but they still have a good relationship. The Rockies need to outside of just being boring, there's just so many narratives about them that they can't do anything about other than have to prove them wrong. For the Rockies not to be boring in 2025, and I know it's a tough thing, and there's excitement there, and what I'm going to say in segment number 3 might contradict what I'm saying here. Everybody needs to step it up from the top of the organization to the bottom of the organization. There needs to be a change. There needs to be a difference in philosophy. If not, the Rockies are just going to continue to be a sideshow. They're going to be the sideshow of Major League Baseball. They're the sideshow of professional sports in Colorado. And more often than not, they'll put up a performance that just makes you feel bored and frustrated. I think that is the prime example of what the Rockies are right now. Now, on the flip side, and this will be a nice little lead into one of the comments that we'll talk about in segment number 3. There is upside for this team to change. There is upside for Rockies players to develop and get better. But again, it's tough when you're sitting in there in a situation and you're like, where is the big breakout guy? Where is, and if they do break out, how long will they be with the team? Will they actually build around these guys? How confident are we in the development abilities? I do think that this team will be better this year. I think the team will be a more entertaining team. And I think this team has upside. But it doesn't, in reality, to just sit here and say that this team can be better, that can be 3-game difference like it was between 23 and 24. It could be a 10-game difference. It could be a massive, the Rockies surprise us and knock our socks off and are in the wild card somehow difference. But there's still a lot of stuff that lingers about the Colorado Rockies that just, it's hard not to have the doubts seep into your mind. And it's hard not to think that the Rockies are a boring team. A team that shouldn't be boring, a team that has a great an environment that should be conducive to not being a boring team. Yet here we are. Boring team. We'll see if they change it. All right, let's wrap this sucker up here and talk Rockies. YouTube comments coming up in segment number 3 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250. Yes, $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I like to build a little parlay. I like to do a little things where I mix and match. Parlay is a little riskier, but a little bit more fun when you head to the sports book there. But you can also just take a touchdown score. You could take first touchdown score. There's a whole variety of things you can check out on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets when you win if your first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. And we're going to read some YouTube comments here. Dennis here says Rockies will be 54 and 108 at season's end, likely the most directionless franchise in all of Major League Baseball. They've been helped out by the A's being a fiasco and the White Sox losing 121 games. Bud Black has 6 straight woeful seasons, and he is still the manager. The last 2 seasons, they won 68 and 58 games. Why don't they hire someone from the Rays and start over, much like the Marlins have just done with Peter Bendix? Dennis also follows that up with, just looked it up, Rockies in 2021, the 8th pick in the draft was Benny Montgomery, who was buried in their prospect rankings at 16 in AA. In 2022, they had the 10th pick and took Gabriel Hughes, who's buried at 22 on their rankings. You can't miss on players in the top 10 of the draft. I mean, true. Baseball drafting is also weird, and those 2 players can certainly still play a factor. It's Benny Montgomery especially has been dealing with injury stuff. So if you're confident about Zach Veen and making that appearance this year, but you're not confident that Benny Montgomery can do the same thing, that's a little weird. I disagree with you, Dennis. This team will not be 54 and 108. I think this team wins 65 games this year. I think the ceiling is 70 wins, and I said the same thing last year. But again, I didn't expect the Rockies to be historically bad. The main difference maker, I think, with this is you just have to hope that the Rockies. Again, and I know how crazy that sounds because Dennis hits you with the facts there, right? He hits you with the numbers. He hits you with the win losses. He hits you with stuff that is true. But I believe the talent on this team, I believe the players that are developing the way they are, and I believe a bounce back season from Nolan Jones mixed with the Rockies having the first time that they actually have their starters that they believe in is going to be the difference maker in that small scale. It's not going to push them to everything, but I do think 70 wins is in sight. I got to push back though. I don't think you can immediately just say Rays model, go Rays model, Rays model. Got to go Rays model. They're different teams. And the Marlins have to take the Rays model because, again, it goes back to that attendance thing. Those 2 teams struggle so much with attendance. They have to get that creative. They struggle with attendance. They struggle with people watching. They're dealing with the impacts of no local sports, of no local TV deals. Those guys, that's what happens if you if you can't get people in the stands. Yes, the Rays are able to have done that, but the Rockies aren't in that situation in which they can sign players and build establishments. They don't have to immediately trade them away, and they don't even actually do that anyway. They don't even follow the Rays model. I don't necessarily, and I don't think just sitting there and hoping that Bendix is going to immediately wave the magic wand and fix the Marlins, as we learned earlier in the episode, the only team that's lost more than the Rockies since 2011. Just because they got the Rays, and again, the Rays can get you to be a middling team, but the Rays have fizzled out in the playoffs. The Rays have gotten in their own way. The Rockies need to create their own model. The Rockies need to create their own model that embraces where they're at. This is where the Rays mindset would help. It's you need people that can come in and evaluate and completely understand what works for the Rockies. What do the years and years and years and years of data tell you about the type of players that are successful in Colorado? And that includes players that go from Colorado and on the road. There are players that have been successful at home and away for the Colorado Rockies. It has happened. But this team is already in the middle of blowing it. I mean, this team blew it all up a couple of years ago. If you blow it all up from here, you're blowing up a bad team and making it even worse and moving on from stuff. So I don't know. I don't think that there's anything. If the Rockies bullpen wasn't historically bad at blowing multi-run leads in the 9th inning last year, the Rockies would have won more ball games and flirted with 70 wins. If the Rockies didn't get off to historically one of the worst starts in baseball history, then they wouldn't be in the situation they were in win-loss wise. And they just a couple of things breaking their way throughout a couple other games. They avoid the back-to-back 100-loss season barely, but I'm just saying, I don't think that to sit here and say that this team built the way it is going to regress to 54 and 108. I think you're overreacting a little bit, my friend, but I appreciate you tuning in and checking it out, because it is frustrating. It is really, I mean, it is the points made by Dennis here are highlight everything that we're talking about with Rockies frustration, you know? And I it's hard to sit here and not feel like that the Rockies will get worse, because what evidence, what examples do we have to prove otherwise, especially of late, and to continue to turn back to the same people and the same coaches and the same everything and hope for something different to happen. Of course you're going to doubt that. Dennis is completely well within the right mindset. Why would you be abundantly confident that this Rockies team can turn it around when they haven't shown you that they can? That's going to be the big thing, and that's going to lead in to tomorrow's episode. I think the main thing Rockies fans are asking for when it comes to Christmas and their baseball team this year is competitive, good baseball. And we'll dive into that a little bit more, as well as some more YouTube comments tomorrow. That is going to do it for today's episode, the Christmas Eve episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. And we are on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies right here on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Shout outs to Locked On MLB. Make that your second listen of the day. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.